Today on our 2013 Chevrolet Express van, we're going to be installing Tekonsha's Primus IQ trailer brake controller, part number TK90160. And to help us complete this installation, we'll be using etrailer's Universal Installation Wiring Kit, part number ETBC7. This brake controller is going to provide you with proportional braking for your trailer. And unlike some brake controllers, it doesn't have to be mounted completely level. It can be mounted 90 degrees up or down, which gives you a lot more options on where you could mount your brake controller. On the brake controller itself, you'll have an LCD display to output whether it's connected or not. NC would indicate not connected, and just a C like we have here shows that we are connected. When you're applying your brakes, you'll get a voltage readout showing how much is being applied back to your brakes. The higher the voltage, the harder it'll brake. The manual slider here can be used to assist when adjusting, or in the case of an emergency, or if you're sitting on a hill, you can use it to hold the brakes on your trailer. There's a boost button located on top of your brake controller, and this will allow you to adjust how much boost you want. This boost setting can be useful depending on the weight of the trailer that you're hauling. If you're hauling a trailer that weighs less than the vehicle, a boost setting of 1 can provide you with a properly adjusted setup to ensure that you're braking optimally. If your trailer weighs roughly the same as your vehicle, you can use the Boost 2 setting, and the Boost 3 is for when you have a trailer that weighs more than your vehicle. Additionally, the Boost button can be used to cancel all the Boost settings when backing up, as the Boost can make it difficult to back up because it can be applying your trailer brakes when you're trying to get that trailer in a tight spot. Located to the left of the display is a sensitivity knob, and this will adjust how much output goes to your trailer brakes. You can see this by using the manual slider. If you push the manual slider in, you slowly apply the brake. When you push it all the way in, that's how much you're applying at maximum braking. So here we've got 10 volts. We can spin our knob and lower that down to wherever we want our maximum braking power to be. We'll begin our installation at the back of the vehicle. In addition to our ETBC7 kit, we are using a long bracket. You can pick these up here at etrailer.com, as we need a place to mount our 7-pole connector. So we're going to go ahead and take our bracket. We're going to put it on our hitch. We're going to use the band that comes included with it to secure it to the hitch. We'll then use a pair of tin snips to trim off the excess, and we can now mount our 7-pole connector. We'll use the hardware that comes included with our long bracket to secure our 7-pole bracket. We'll slide the bolt down through the top of our long bracket, slide our 7-pole bracket on there, and use the included nut to secure it. We'll do that with the other hole as well. We'll then tighten both of those down using a 10mm socket. Take your 7-pole connector, we're going to slide it into the bracket, and we'll use the hardware that comes with our 7-pole connector to attach it to the bracket. You'll slide the long bolt from the outside through the connector and the bracket, and use the included nuts to secure it to the back side. We'll do that with the 3 remaining holes. We'll then tighten them down using a flat-bladed screwdriver. We can now take our included wiring. We're going to route it up over the hitch. You'll use your existing 4-pole connector, plug it into the 4-pole connector coming out of the back of your 7-pole connector. We'll now install our ground wire. We're going to use the larger self-tapping screw in the kit, and we're just going to run it into the frame here. We'll use a 10mm socket to thread our bolt in. We'll now take our duplex wire that comes in the kit. We're going to need to strip some of it back. So we'll use our razor knife, cut it down the gray sheathing. That'll expose our wiring. And we'll need to strip back each of the black and white wires. And if you want, you can cut the excess gray off as well. We'll now take the blue and the black wire coming off of our 7-pole connector. You can just crimp your white and black wires directly to these, but we're going to be upgrading ours to heat shrink butt connectors to keep out any moisture, ensuring a long-lasting connection. So So we're just going to snip those off, strip each of these wires back, and then connect on our heat shrink butt connectors. Now on the other side of our black and blue wires, we'll connect our duplex wiring. We'll connect the black to the black and the white to the blue. We'll then use a heat gun to shrink down our connectors. The purple wire is for your backup lights. So if you were going to connect this, you would just tap into your backup lights on the rear of your vehicle. We're not going to be connecting this on our vehicle today. So we can take the rest of our wiring here, and we're just going to bundle it up and secure it. We'll use the zip ties that come in the kit to keep our wiring nice and clean. Now we'll need to run our duplex wire up into our engine compartment. Whenever you route this wire, you want to make sure to avoid any excessively hot objects such as your exhaust or moving components such as your steering and suspension. I'm going to route this wire now, and then I'll show you the path I took to get there. We took our wiring, we routed it up on top of the frame here, and then we just followed our factory wiring harness all the way down the side of the frame towards the front, zip tying it along the way. Up by the tire. It's best to follow your factory wiring whenever possible, as it's already routed in a way where it's going to avoid any of those things that I suggested that you should avoid. To get our wiring up into our engine compartment, we're going to be using a fish wire. We're just using a piece of airline tubing for that, but you could use pretty much anything. An old coat hanger, unwinded, works pretty well. So we're going to feed it down to the section where we stopped running our wire underneath. We'll take our wiring. We're just going to use some electrical tape to tape that to that fish wire. Then we can pull the other end of our fish wire, pulling it back up. Use your razor knife to separate your fish wire from your duplex wiring. And then here we can just kind of route it a little bit better up top. We're going to take it up above this existing wiring here. We're going to need to strip back the sheathing from where we've got it routed up here all the way down to the end. Next, we'll attach our circuit breakers. We're going to go ahead and mount those here and here. You get a 20, 40, and 30 amp breaker in your kit. The 40 amp is for the black wire that runs to the back connector, and you can use either the 20 or 30 for your brake controller depending on which one you've purchased. We're going to be using the 20 here today. We're going to connect this using the self-tapping screws that come in the kit and a 1/4 inch socket. And we'll attach our other circuit breaker just like that, but right next to it here. We'll then take our black wire. We're going to kind of measure up the length. This is going to connect to our 40 amp circuit breaker. So we've got it about here. Cut our wire. We'll then strip that back and crimp on one of the smaller yellow ring terminals that come in the kit. We'll connect this to the silver post of the 40 amp circuit breaker. And you can snug it down with a 3/8 socket. Now in the lower left kick panel on the driver's side, you'll find a grommet located here on the firewall. That's where we're going to be routing our wiring to the inside. We're going to start by using a Phillips screwdriver to just poke a hole through this grommet. And we'll just push that in. And then you can check on the other side to see your screwdriver, as we're going to be using that hole there to get our wiring in. Now that we've poked our hole, we're going to take our screwdriver back out. And we're going to take our fish wire again. We're going to push that through the hole. We'll now take our white wire here. We're going to fold it in half until it comes to about there. And then we're going to cut our wire, as we're going to be using this to run the brake signal wire and a ground wire. So the brake controller output is going to connect to this wire here, and we're going to use this as our ground. So what I like to do is I like to go ahead and take some electrical tape, and I like to mark the ground wire. So we're going to go ahead and just wrap some electrical tape around the end of this wire here. This way when we pull it inside, we know that this is the one we've got designated for our ground. We can go ahead and connect the ground now as well. So we'll strip back one side, connect one of the larger yellow ring terminals in our kit to it, crimp it down. We can go ahead and connect to the ground location here on the driver's side inner fender here. We'll remove the bolt using a 10mm socket. Slide the bolt through our ring terminal, and then we're just going to reattach it right to the location where we removed it. We'll now take both of the white wires that we had and the rest of the black wire that we cut off earlier, and we're going to attach all three of these to our fish wire that we ran through. We'll then pull our wiring inside using our fish wire. You'll want to take the bracket that comes included with your brake controller and find a mounting location for it. We're going to be putting ours about right here. We'll use the included screws that came with our brake controller to tap it into our lower dash area here. We're going to use a 1/4-inch socket to mount that screw in there. We can then slide our brake controller in the bracket and click it into place. And we can begin making our connection for the harness that comes with your brake controller. We'll take each wire that we ran in and we're going to strip it back. You may want to strip back your harness as well. Ours are already pre-stripped, but I like to have a little more stripped off. Now we'll start making our connections. Our black wire that we ran in is going to connect to the black wire on our harness. I'm going to use the yellow butt connectors that come in the kit to make these connections. The white wire that we ran in that we didn't put any tape on is our brake wire that goes back to our 7-pole. That's going to connect to the blue wire. The white wire that we marked is our ground wire. That one will connect to the white wire on our harness. And the red wire is going to connect to the cold side of the brake switch. So we're going to go ahead and route this wire over to our brake controller before making that connection, as we're going to need to verify which is the appropriate wire. Now the red wire is not going to be long enough to make the connection, so you are going to need to extend it. You can pick up additional wire here at etrailer.com using part number 16-1-1. So we'll strip back our wire and we'll make our connection using one of the yellow butt connectors that come in our kit. And now this red wire does need to be routed to the outside. So we're going to use the black wire since it's a little bit longer than the rest. We're going to kind of pull some of the excess in. We're going to tape our red wire to the black wire and then use that to pull it back out, just like we did with our other fish wire tricks. Pull our black wire back in, and then we'll separate the red from the black. Our red wire is going to connect into our fuse box to get its brake signal from the third brake lamp fuse. So in order to get this connected, we're going to be using a fuse tap. You can pick up fuse taps here at etrailer.com. We'll take the red wire that we ran out, we'll strip it back, twist our red wire and crimp it onto the fuse tap. We'll now need to insert our fuse tap where our third brake lamp fuse goes, which is going to be the third fuse over from the bottom left corner of your fuse box here. It's a 15 amp fuse, so we're going to pull that fuse out. We'll then insert the fuse that we just removed into the lower portion of our fuse tap. We'll then take the 10 amp fuse that comes with our fuse tap. We're going to insert that into the top portion of our fuse tap. Then we'll insert our fuse tap where we removed the 15 amp fuse. We'll now need to take our fuse cover and we're going to need to modify it to allow the wire to poke through. So let's simply use a pair of side cutters to just cut a notch out. When you put your cover back on, you want to line your wire up with the knots that you made, so that way it can poke through. Now we'll zip tie and clean up all of our wiring and plug our connector into the back of our brake controller. Now back on the outside, we'll need to make our power connections. So the black wire that we ran inside, we'll need to connect that to our 20 amp circuit breaker. We'll now cut our wire to length, strip it back, and crimp on one of the small yellow ring terminals. This will hook to the silver post on the 20 amp circuit breaker. The rest of the black wire that we had we'll use to make the connections to our battery. Now, since our battery is a side post type battery, we're not actually going to be connecting it to the battery directly. We're going to be connecting it to the battery positive post on our fuse box located directly below. So we're going to fold the black wire in half, check our length to make sure that we can reach that, which we can. So we'll then cut our wire so we have two equal lengths. Strip back each end of our wire. And then on one end of each wire, we're going to put a small ring terminal. This will be the circuit breaker side. And on the other end of each wire, we're going to put the larger yellow ring terminals. This will be our battery side. First, we'll connect our circuit breaker side. This is going to go to the copper post. So we're going to put one wire on one and one wire on the other. It doesn't really matter which wire goes to which at this point, because they're both going to be going to the battery. So now I want to make sure that all of our circuit breaker wires are snug. We're going to use a 3/8 socket to do that. Now on our fuse box, if you remove just the small cover, it'll access your battery positive wires that run to it. You can use either one. We'll then use a 10mm socket to remove one of the nuts. We'll slide the large ring terminals from our circuit breakers onto the posts, and then we'll tighten it back down. You'll now either want to hook up your trailer or a tester and verify everything's working properly. You'll know you're connected when the display on your brake controller becomes a C. This indicates you're connected. You want to also make sure that you have your left turn signal, right turn signal, tail lamps, and brake lamps. And you'll want to verify that your trailer brakes are working, so you can use the slider on your brake controller and verify you've got a signal back there. As you can see, we've got a signal on our tester here. And that completes our installation of Tekonsha's Primus IQ trailer brake controller on our 2013 Chevrolet Express van.